They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Right.
I mean, terrified.
I know.
No, to death.
Most folks just see Ice Cube as a hardcore rapper, but truth is, he really lived that life. Suge Knight, he found that out the hard way. This wasn't just some tough guy image. Cube actually threw hands at a public event. No stunt double, no security, just straight up chaos. From getting in Suge Knight's face and almost brawling with him, to blasting him out loud without holding anything back, Cube didn't care who you were. If he had something to say, he said it. Suge might have been feared by the whole industry. Some even called him the boogeyman of rap. But Cube, he didn't flinch. A lot of people used to clown Ice Cube, saying he was just pretending to be from the streets, just acting like a gangster to sell records. But nah, he wasn't just playing dress up. He was one of the few that escaped that life, and his past still haunts his stories today.
If you didn't know he got poked, then the conspiracy lives on.
Would you put it past
I'll
Suge?
push as nobody.
One wild story he told proves it. A neighborhood dude strung out on drugs once came to Cube's house and straight up lied to his mom to get cash. And guess what? She gave him $20. That lit a fire in Cube. He and his homie grabbed their guns and went hunting for the dude. They pulled up at the guy's crib, ready for blood, but he wasn't home. That moment, it changed everything. Cube later admitted that if the guy had been home, he might have never made it to where he is now.
Was heavy on drugs, went around to my house and gave my mother some cockamamie story. So she gave him $20 and I was so mad. You violated me and my family. Me and my friends was going around the corner to kill him. And he wasn't home, so thank God.
That was a close call. And in his own words, he said he wouldn't be the Ice Cube we know today if things had gone down different. One big reason Ice Cube made it out of the streets, his pops. Unlike a lot of others around him, Cube had a real father figure in his life. Someone who kept him grounded and showed him a better path. That steady guidance, mixed with the Doors music open for him, helped him break free from the chaos that swallowed so many others. But let's be real. Just because Cube left the streets didn't mean he turned soft, not even close. That's exactly why even Suge Knight, the man folks whispered about in fear, had to face Cube head on. DJ Premier once spilled the tea about witnessing Cube and Suge almost go at it.
We were young and we was mad and we had a weapon and it was gonna happen. So it would have been stupid and I wouldn't be sitting here if it did happen. We grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood, but nobody was tougher than my father. So it was a sense of security.
This wasn't just some random moment either. It happened right after Cube dipped from NWA, while Suge was already stacking up a rep as the most dangerous dude in the industry. But according to Premier, Cube wasn't scared at all. He stood there, squared up, ready for whatever. And that says everything. Back then, Suge had the whole rap game trembling. He didn't just talk tough, he made things happen. Suge was out here extorting rappers, rolling with serious gangsters, and putting real fear into people's hearts. Just ask Jerry Heller. He saw it up close. Heller, one of the most controversial names from NWA's history, once straight up called Suge pure evil. And for good reason. During the whole drama with Dr. Dre trying to leave Ruthless Records, Suge and his enforcer Mob James rolled up and demanded Dre's release. And Heller, he froze in place. He sat stuck in his chair, completely paralyzed by fear. But here's the part that gets even darker.
Did you really see Suge and Ice Cube fight?
Also, I see a ruckus, and I just see, Cube's throwing his fist. He wasn't punking out at all.
Heller's home got broken into not long after. A bunch of his stuff got snatched, but what really freaked him out? Someone spray painted a message right on his mirror, a clear warning. No proof it was Suge, but Heller knew what time it was.
Suge Knight is a mythical figure.
The controversial CEO of Death Row Records.
The most feared figure in all of hip-hop.
His size was intimidating.
Knight had been on probation for a 1992 assault on two aspiring rap.
After that, He was paranoid out of his mind. Just hearing Suge's name was enough to make him panic. Albert Hughes, one half of the Hughes brothers behind Menace II Society, once said he casually dropped Suge Knight's name around Jerry Heller just joking around. And Jerry immediately pulled a gun on his brother. That's how deep the fear ran. Dude was shaking so bad he couldn't even take a joke. But Heller wasn't the only one who got caught in Suge's storm. Suge had the whole industry under pressure. But Cube, he wasn't built like the rest. Suge couldn't punk him into backing down. And Cube's track record proves it. He's had beefs with more than a few heavy names in the game. Take his clash with the group Above the Law, for example. After Cube walked away from NWA, Eazy-E went and signed Above the Law, who repped Pomona. Naturally, they picked up the leftover smoke from that whole breakup. Things started to get hot in 1990 while Above the Law was pushing their debut album, Living Like Hustlers. During an interview with the LA Times in April, one of the members, KMG the illustrator, threw some bold shade at Cube, questioning whether Cube was really about that life. He hinted that Cube's street tales weren't really his, they were lifted straight from their experiences. He said Cube hustled the street, never banged in the streets.
Me and Cube had some issues. He disrespected Pomona. Me and him got into a head-up scrap. Spilled over to the New Music Seminar. We had an interview with LA Times. What signatures y'all music and everything. So like we talk about like, you know, what we really was involved with, or our colleague. We not like Ice Cube that went away to college and come back and act like this big time gangster in NWA, which at the time that's what he was. You know, he was a dude that was really sharp with the pen. Was kind of a schoolboy, you know, never hustled the street, never banged in the street.
Cube didn't explode over it, but he definitely wasn't gonna sit quiet either. He clapped back with a slick jab. New G's from Pomona should only talk about the 10 freeway, calling out their hometown in a way that hit hard. When that interview hit the streets, Eazy-E immediately picked up the phone and called Cold 187, the head of Above the Law. "Did you read the paper?" he asked. The second Cold 187 saw it. He was fuming. Straight up, he told Eazy he was ready to put hands on Cube. Eazy tried to calm him down, but 187 wasn't having it. He was fired up and ready to throw down. Crazy how things played out. Cold 187 didn't even have to wait long to run into Cube face to face. That same night, April 7th, 1990, Above the Law was headlining a show at the Anaheim Celebrity Theater. And guess who was backstage? Ice Cube, giving a magazine interview right in the hallway. Cube and 187 crossed paths and traded a few words, but nothing jumped off. Yet, that changed real fast. Cube later stepped right into Above the Law's dressing room and stopped 187 at the doorway. And boom, that was all it took for fists to start flying. It was straight chaos, a rough fight with both sides swinging hard. But Cube, he didn't fold. He stood his ground and didn't let 187 walk over him. The brawl eventually cooled down, but the tension still thick in the air. By then, Cube wasn't running solo anymore. After cutting ties with NWA, he built up his own crew, Da Lynch Mob. And this crew wasn't just about music. These were real ones. Activists, street soldiers, the type of people you didn't want to cross. So when Above the Law and Cube's squad bumped into each other again, it was on sight.
LA Times wanted to reply to that. On the interview, he said New Jack Pomona should only talk about the freeway because that's the only thing that's going through that mother. Eazy-E called me. He said, "Hey man, did you get the LA Times?" I said, "No, man, you gotta see it." He laughing on the phone. He's a big joke, so he laughing. So I get it. I read the statement. I call E back and say, "I'm your boy up." You know, as soon as I see, "Oh, cuz, don't be tripping." I said, "Man, that." For real, homie.
This time, it happened at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square during the 1990 New Music Seminar. Cube had stepped away to speak on a panel, but his crew still in the building. Words got tossed around, tempers flared, and before long, it exploded. Another full-on brawl broke out between Da Lynch Mob and Above the Law, and it got messy. People were thrown around, and the message was loud and clear. Cube's camp wasn't playing.
So he come, made a meet up in the hallway, said, "What's up there?" She said, "Newspaper. You trying to play me like a buster or something, homie?" Like, you a dude. Like I said, "What's happening? You want to get down?" So he come back into my dressing room and say, "What's up?" As soon as he say, what's up? I give him to him, a two-piece hot whip. Boom, he fall through the door. So
Cube didn't back down either.
No, he didn't. He didn't back down. He got socked out, but he didn't back down. He got socked out, but he didn't back down.
By the end, Cube had made sure folks knew he wasn't the one to mess with. And just when the dust started to settle, bam, another beef started bubbling, this time with Common. On September 27, 1994, a young rapper named Common Sense dropped a track that shook the game and kicked off some major drama. The track I Used to Love, H.E.R., was a standout off Common's second album, Resurrection. On the surface, it sounded like a love story, Common falling for a girl. But that girl, she was a metaphor for hip-hop itself.
And when we get to New York, so all the stuff going around the seminars like, oh yeah, the lynch mob here, and they got issues, whatever, right? We see each other going to a panel, right? And we face off right in the middle of the seminar, and we get down. And all hell broke loose. Q was nowhere around. Nowhere around. We tore that whole floor up.
As the song plays out, you realize he's talking about how hip-hop grew, changed, and, according to him, lost its soul. The East Coast crowd ate it up. They hadn't been too hyped on his first album, Can I Borrow $1? But this one, different story. Lines like, when I was 10 years old, what I loved most, she had so much soul. Had heads nodding and thinking deep. But not everybody was vibing. While the East Coast praised his poetic storytelling, others, especially on the West Coast, felt the track was throwing shade. The song painted a picture of hip-hop shifting from its soulful, conscious roots to a more commercial, gangster-driven scene. And guess who was front and center during that shift? West Coast rap. Ice Cube wasn't about to let that slide. To him, Common's track felt like a direct shot at the West Coast wave that was dominating in the 90s.
I created I Used to Love It in 1994. You know, it was a story that I could tell about the evolution of hip-hop and the stages that I seen hip-hop go from just the pure innocent to...
He talking about this girl that he was in love with. You know, she's supposed to be hip-hop. He's so in love with her. But when she go out here, she get...
Word got back to Common that Cube had responded with a diss through a verse on Mac 10's West Side Slaughterhouse, featuring Cube and WC. That was the spark that lit the fire.
King T from the West.
Yeah,
somebody said, yo, Cube dissed you on this song. So we playing the song, and I'm listening. I'm like, damn, this dissing me.
Common clapped back with a full-on diss track, and that's how the beef blew up. He came in swinging with lines like, went from gangsta to Islam to the D of Das EFX, calling Cube out for trying to play to the East Coast, then flipping on it later. He didn't stop there. He aimed even harder with, hypocrite. I'm filling out your death certificate, slinging bean pies and St. Ides in the same sentence. Basically accusing Cube of repping the Nation of Islam while still promoting the very street life they stood against. Those bars hit hard, the shots were loud, and the tension got real. And just when you thought it couldn't get any colder, Common dropped the ultimate mic.
I had a record, man, that was a killer. And then we ended up having this summit with Farrakhan.
Oh.
He helped us squash it.
Mm-hmm.
He helped us squash it, so I just never did my record.
You recorded it?
No, I had the lyric.
He hit Cube with his own lyrics, quoting, "Wanna be is a bee," flipping Cube's words right back at him like a dagger. That move? Straight savage. Now for Ice Cube, this was new territory. He'd always been the undisputed king of diss tracks. His ruthless takedown of NWA with No Vaseline? That joint was legendary, cut deep, and left scars. People knew not to mess with Cube on the mic. As Doug Infinite once said, if you're gonna come at Cube lyrically, you better come with it, or he's gonna body you. And Common? He wasn't scared. He came with full force. Cube later admitted he actually did write a response track to clap back at Common. But before it could turn into a full-blown war, the game changed. By that time, hip-hop had been rocked by tragedy. Tupac Shakur was gunned down in 1996, and then the notorious B.I.G. followed in 1997. Back-to-back losses that sent shockwaves through the culture. Then came April 3rd, 1997, less than a month after Biggie's death. Minister Louis Farrakhan stepped in and organized a major peace summit at the Nation of Islam's headquarters in Chicago. It was a huge deal. Major names from the industry showed up, including both Ice Cube and Common. It was the kind of moment that made everybody take a breath. The beef got put to rest before it could turn deadly. And just like that, Cube and Common let it go for the culture.
Ice Cube of NWA will be hanging out with him and all his homies at his house.
We'll be back after these commercials or breaks or cuts or whatever.
Whatever. Don't go anywhere.
But that wasn't the first time Cube found himself in the middle of major rap drama. Next up, the infamous war between Ice Cube and NWA.
D always in the middle of controversy, right here, pump it up.
Most fans already know Cube bounced from NWA in 1989 over money disputes. He felt like he wasn't getting his fair share for all the writing he did on Straight Outta Compton, and that split got ugly real fast. The beef even pulled in people who had nothing to do with it. One name that stands out, D Barnes.
They grabbed me by my hair and started slamming me up against the wall. It's a painful and traumatic experience.
She was a host on the Fox hip-hop show Pump It Up, where she covered the culture and interviewed major rap names. Years later, her name even got mentioned by Eminem on Guilty Conscience. The drama around D Barnes took a nasty turn, but let's rewind and see how she ended up stuck in the middle of the mess. By the time the Ice Cube versus NWA beef exploded, D had already interviewed the group multiple times. She was no stranger to them. She'd covered their rise on her show Pump It Up for years. But when Cube walked away from the group, things shifted hard. NWA wasn't about to let him slide out quietly.
I hope she gets it again. She got beat down. The host of that show did something and she know what she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
They clapped back heavy with the track 100 Miles and Running, throwing sharp darts at Cube with no filter. So when D brought NWA back on the show to talk about their next moves, the vibe tense from the jump. Every question she asked turned into a diss at Cube. It got so out of hand, the producers had to chop out some of the harshest parts just to make it fit for TV. But here's where everything really went sideways. When the episode finally aired, it included more than just the NWA segment. There was also a previously recorded clip from the Boys and the Hood set featuring rapper Yo-Yo, Cube's close friend and collaborator. And guess what? Cube popped up during that segment.
You know, we play him the song and he likes it. He goes, yeah, that's perfect, you know. Me and Muggs asked him, hey man, we got a couple of tracks from the album you want to hear?
We played him a song called Throw Your Set in the Air. And he was like, oh, that's banging. Can I get that for the movie instead?
They're like, man, we'd love to give it to you, but this is gonna be the single on our album. The Throw Your Set in the Air thing. I said, no, we didn't give him that. He goes, well, that is in his chorus in his song.
Out of nowhere, he crashed the interview and went in on NWA, flipping their own lyrics against them and clowning them right on camera. To make it even worse, Cube took a shot at the DOC, who was tight with Dr. Dre and had just been in a serious car wreck that wrecked his voice. That jab hit real low. Now, to be fair, D Barnes said, even back then she didn't think that part should have aired. But as just a presenter, she didn't have the power to pull it. The final edit? It was built for drama, playing the NWA and Cube clips back to back for maximum tension. And when Cube's fiery clip ended, D turned to the camera and said what we were all thinking. She's always in the middle of controversy. That little line D Barnes dropped on camera, probably just a reflex in a messy moment. But when the final edit aired, it looked bad. Like she was stirring the pot, hyping the Ice Cube versus NWA beef, and placing herself smack in the middle of the chaos. After the interview fiasco, some time passed. But it all came crashing back when D and Dr. Dre ran into each other again, this time at a Def Jam Records party. Dre, drunk and still fuming over how the interview got chopped up, snapped. According to Rolling Stone journalist Alan Light in an article titled Beating Up the Charts, Dre spotted D, lost it, and attacked her. He allegedly grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head and right side of her body repeatedly against a brick wall by the stairwell. His bodyguard even held the crowd back with a gun. Nobody could step in. Then Dre tried to throw her down the stairs. He failed, but didn't stop. He started kicking her in the ribs and hands like a madman. D broke away and ran for safety into the women's restroom, but Dre followed her. He grabbed her from behind by the hair again and punched her in the back of the head. The attack was brutal, and it didn't stay quiet. Members of NWA spoke about it afterward, and their reactions, shocking. MC Ren flat out said she deserved it. Eazy-E backed him up saying, yeah, B had it coming. Even Dre himself showed zero remorse.
I heard a couple lines that were the same things I used on the Temple of Boom record. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, that's my line.
His quote, people talk all this ish, but you know, somebody mess with me, I'm gonna mess with them. I just did it. Ain't nothing you can do now by talking about it. Besides, it ain't no big thing. I just threw her through a door. D. Barnes ended up suing Dre for $22.75 million, but the case was quietly settled out of court. Then came another feud, this time with Cypress Hill. The drama sparked over the Friday movie soundtrack, which Cube was curating. One of the big tracks on it was Roll It Up, Light It Up, Smoke It Up, a Cypress Hill joint they had agreed to drop for the film. But according to Be Real, things went left real quick when Cube heard a totally different song during a studio session and made a move that would spark serious tension. While Ice Cube was going through tracks for the Friday movie soundtrack, he got an early listen to Cypress Hill's upcoming album, Temples of Boom. That's when he heard their lead single, Throw Your Set in the Air. And Cube was loving it. He wanted that track for the soundtrack bad. But Cypress Hill said no. Respectfully, they told Cube that the song was off limits. It was the main joint off their upcoming album. Cube pushed a little, asked to hear it again, and they played it back. Still, they held their ground. That track was staying exclusive. Fast forward to the release of the Friday soundtrack, which dropped before Temples of Boom. That's when things started to smell funny.
Back up, whooped on his ass. Somehow his chain fell in my hand. I don't know how I got in my hand, but it fell in my hand.
A friend of Be Real's gave him a call and said, yo, did you let Cube use one of your album tracks for Friday? Be Real was confused. He thought they were talking about Roll It Up, Light It Up, Smoke It Up, the song they had given Cube. But the friend wasn't talking about that one. He was talking about a different song, one that sounded a little too close to Throw Your Set in the Air. At first, Be Real didn't believe it. Then he played Cube's track, and his heart dropped. The hook, way too similar. Slight changes in the words, but the vibe, flow, and structure, nearly identical. Be Real was heated. No, we didn't give him that song, he told the studio team, and word of that frustration traveled fast. Mac 10 caught wind and passed it to Cube. Trying to clear things up, Cube reached out to Be Real directly to explain. He swore it was all just a big misunderstanding. Things calmed down for a minute. Later, Cube invited Be Real to come lay down a guest vocal for Caution, a group signed to Cube's own label, Lynch Mob Records. But while Be Real was in the studio, he heard something that stopped him cold. A few lines in a track that sounded almost word for word like lyrics from Temples of Boom. Now it was personal. The tension was bubbling up again, and this time, it was clear. The piece wasn't gonna last. But Real couldn't believe what he was hearing. Again, it sounded like Cube was trying to jack from Cypress Hill one more time. And Be Real caught on fast. The moment Cube saw the look on his face, he dipped out of the studio, and when he came back, the lines were gone, just like that. To Be Real, that was all the proof he needed. Cube had been caught red-handed, again. That moment was the final straw. Be Real went straight to his crew and laid it all out. Cypress Hill wasn't gonna sit quiet this time. They clapped back hard with no rest for the wicked, a vicious diss track aimed straight at Cube's head. From there, things spiraled into a full-on war. Diss tracks started flying back and forth between the camps, and the beef got real messy. Fans picked sides, other artists chimed in, and the already tense LA rap scene started boiling over. And while that beef was heating up, Cube had another problem brewing, this time with LA artists Cam and Solo. There was already bad blood over business, and it all came to a head at a random traffic light in LA. According to Solo, they ran into each other in traffic, and it got physical real quick. He claimed he got the upper hand in the fight, and during the scuffle, Ice Cube's chain somehow ended up in his hands. Solo said, "I don't know how it got in my hand, but it fell in my hand." Whether you believe it or not, he made sure the world saw it. He pulled up to a Cypress Hill show at the House of Blues and held the chain up high in front of the crowd, and the place exploded. Cameras flashed, and the moment was even caught in a photo that spread like wildfire. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed, and the beef between Cube and Cypress Hill finally got squashed, bringing one of the wildest rap feuds of the 90s to a close. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and share this video if you're loving these untold hip-hop stories, and we'll catch you on the next one.